understand when I say this. It's both an enviable and an unenviable position I am in, because there is a term in Kannada called kaudi. I don't know how many of you can understand Kannada. Kaudi is sort of a razai, which is not made with new cloth, but that cloth has a time stamp. So it's usually made by the oldest woman in the house, and it's done in northern part of Karnataka, and maybe other parts of the country as well. And she makes it using a very thick thread from the clothes that have memories. Like there is a discarded cloth from the granddaughter's sari, or a woman, or the daughter's a frock, or a child's first dress, and her own old sari. So every time you wrap yourself in that kaudi, you feel warm in winters and cold in summers, because it has aged. The cloth has aged. The cloth has stood the test of time, and everything in that is a memory. So if I have to sum up, I think this is our panel, and each one of them, that's why we aptly call it the alchemy of crossing over, because it's always comfortable to be in one place, and then the moment you have to cross over and do something else, you have this existential crisis where you say, am I doing it right? Should I move? Should I quit? Should I do something else? Should I write? Should I experiment? Should I look for another culture? But I think what we have here is we have a pioneer who taught us fitness is important, with Vanitha Ashok. And then Yasmin wrote her first book in the recent years, and she has been a phenomenal she has documented some phenomenal lives through it. So with her own crossing over, she has helped so many other people cross over. Miho has been living in India for nearly 2 decades now, and she has a very interesting narration of how she has brought the Japanese and how she lived with her Japanese culture and took in the Indian side of her life. And then we have Deepa, who is living on the farm by Hosur, and she has had a journey of self-discovery through yoga. And then we have Suchita, who talks about mental health through her own journey with hypnotherapy, and she has also helped a lot of other people undertake that journey and have enhanced self-worth. So this is the panel, ladies and gentlemen, and I feel immensely proud to have an all-woman panel. So this is suddenly feeling very comfortable, and it's a statement that we're making that it's an all-women panel, and here we are. So I would like to start with Yasmin first, and I want to ask Yasmin, the youngest girl on this panel, to say, you wrote a book and you found a purpose with that book. And how did that book happen, and what happened with that book?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mysuru Festival, for this opportunity and to be here with all these wonderful women. Well, I think 16 and 60, I usually have this comparison, because at 16, you're very naive and you don't know what you want in life, and you tend to make mistakes. But at 60, you know what's wrong, but you can't. That's why you can't make mistakes, you know. So that is an age where you are... you don't have anybody to look forward to. As kids, you still can bridge a gap between, you know, your parents or elder siblings. But as you're growing old, there's lots that we are going through. You know, we also lose our loved ones during that time. Our parents are not there. We don't know whom to ask, but we know what's wrong. So some people cross over, some just get lost. So I didn't want to be the lost one, and I was not ready to hang my boots I wanted to continue living because life is beautiful. And that's when Manan happened.
Wonderful. So your book is called Manan,
Yes.
Delving Deeper into Oneself.
Yes.
Right? So my next question would be to Vanitha. Vanitha, you started with your fitness journey right at the time when India hadn't woken up to the concept of fitness, or women who went to the gym were mocked at. I don't know if that still happens or is seen as the in thing. Women so gym hogtira, gym ga, oh manil kelsa ilva types used to happen, and you took that journey then. How did that journey happen, and how did you have people today? You're among the popular fitness pioneers, and also somebody who influences women especially to take up fitness even after they assume they passed their prime. Yeah. So how did that happen?
All right, a good question, and good evening, everybody. And this is the first time I'm seeing a panel so full at the end of the session. Okay, it's lovely. Give yourself
it's
a big
us.
hand.
It's us.
Yes, totally. All right, my book is called "You Have an Excuse, I Have an Exercise." So people are full of excuses, and I'm full of exercises. You just name your excuse, I can give you one or more exercises. That's me. And I would like to thank Shubha for having me over to the most coveted Mysore Lit Fest. I've always heard about Bangalore, and I was never able to make it there. I'm so glad I made it here. Okay. All right. About me getting into this profession, I got into this profession when I was 36 years old. Okay, I and my children both studied together. We have to study. You just cannot become a fitness professional. Okay, you need to study. You need to write an exam. You need to study about anatomy, musculoskeletal system, biomechanics, chemistry, physics, maths also. Okay, all this put together. Then you write an exam and then you become an instructor. So at 36, I was studying along with my children, and my children have stopped studying, but I continue to study because certifications don't last forever. I need to recertify to keep my certification alive. And back then there used to be one gym somewhere here, there, that way. But every road has 2-3 gyms now. Imagine when I started, there was hardly anything there. That was 21 years ago. So it was difficult to break the barrier, but when I did my certification, I realized everybody is exercising for weight loss, but they're not exercising for the other benefits of exercises, which cannot be bought over the counter like nutrition. You cannot buy it, you have to earn it. So it started off there. Luckily, I got a lot of break from writing a column, so you can call me a journalist also. So I've been doing media work from a very long time now. That's 20 years now. So I'm on television, print, and radio. So currently, I'm writing for Indian Express, a column, a Q&A, and I also write for Hindustan Online. And I do a TV show, a YouTube show for Vistara. So times have changed drastically. We come from the time where there was no internet. So we literally had to buy manuals, books, and read about, gain more knowledge back then. So it's been a beautiful journey. I'm enjoying it. No wonder Bangalore calls me Fitness Queen of Bengaluru, because I was the pioneer. And there are a lot of people who address me as OG of fitness. Thank you.
That's an amazing journey. So now I come to you, Miho. Now we've had people come to India for various reasons, and they have come and embraced the Indianness of it while also retaining their own culture. And you have been, for all practical purposes, you've been married to an Indian, and you've been here for the last 2 decades almost, and you've been living in Bangalore. And we would love to know, we've had an introduction to Japanese culture in terms of the earlier one used to be ikebana. Does everybody, 80s kids, ikebana, have you heard? The flower arrangement we used to know, yes. So apart from ikebana, which was a peaceful word, now it's ikigai. I will not, yes. So we've had this trend things, So I will not make it any light, but I would just love to request Miho to talk about her own journey of being in India and what brought her here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here today. Actually, the story is pretty long, but I have to condense a little bit. Yeah, I was a child. I was born in the countryside, small city, Fukuoka. Then, my family was quite conservative. No one went to the abroad. And I was actually studying Japanese literature, so I couldn't speak English well. But Since I was a child, I wanted to travel some other countries. On the other hand, I didn't have any chance. But when I was 20, when I was studying in the college, I decided to go to the US for 1 month to study English. I stayed in Los Angeles, and it was 1985. And it was extremely surprising and shocking experience. I was in Japan, I'm Japanese, but the Japanese environment was quite difficult for me. I really couldn't breathe well when I was a child. Japanese, we respect teamwork, and we have to be actually same behavior as other people. On the other hand, I was a bit different. I wanted to do something unique, different from other people, but it was so difficult. Anyhow, so when I was 20, at that time I wanted to be a school teacher, but I changed my plan. I should go to other countries. Then I went to Tokyo and I became an editor, writer for travel magazines. I traveled a lot of countries and I made guidebooks and magazines. Then I became a freelance when I was 27. At that time, I decided I should study English. I went to UK 3 months, but I couldn't speak English, well, only 3 months study. Then I went to New York, 1996, to study English. Wow. And I was planning to be there just 1 year. I went to there May 1996. And 2 months later, July 7th, today, right? July 7th, 1996, I met husband in New York at the bookstore.
We have Miho's, sorry to interrupt, we have Miho's husband Ravi here. So this is one of those very rare introductions to say, see the woman and there is
My
a man.
husband,
so can we
Malha,
have
is
a
there.
big round of applause for Mr. Ravi? Yeah, I mean, please, yeah, we would all like to see you. Arvind, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason. I met him 1996. We are there 10 years. Then afterwards, we came to Bangalore.
Wonderful, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Arvind, for bringing us Miho, and with Miho, a whole treasure of culture from Japan to India, and peacefully amalgamating both of them. And like we say, alchemy is a process where you make a precious metal out of many things. So when you have crossed over from a certain age to another, I won't say young or old or something. I think it's all the age of self-discovery, and you can afford that journey at some age, but you can't afford the same journey at a different age. These are all the differences that we have. So Deepa has had her book, How to Sleep Better, is a highly engrossing one with all the scientific details. So it's not just about, take a deep breath and switch off all the lights and 1 hour before put off your phone and sleep. It has every scientific detail that's listed and every Ayurvedic concept that's listed around sleeping, having a peaceful sleep. So Deepa has had her journey with Ayurveda and organic peaceful living, and I would like Deepa to talk about it herself.
Talk about the book or myself?
About yourself.
Okay, I think I've been teaching yoga for 25 years now, and had a bad marriage. I don't want to go into that, but when I got divorced, I met a yogi who had come back from a Himalayan cave, who was sitting there, and I married him again. Sham, raise your hand.
Sham, wherever you are, yes.
And anyway, we thought we are starting over and life's going to be great. We had our baby. I was 31 years old, and when he was 3 weeks old, he suddenly started shriveling up before our eyes, and over a course of 24 hours, he vomited several times. He just shriveled up like he'd been left out in the sun. He turned dark and stopped feeding, stopped urinating. We didn't know what was wrong, but we knew something was really wrong. So when we rushed him to the hospital, they said, you came in 2 hours, he would have passed away. So he was diagnosed with salt-wasting congenital adrenal hyperplasia, where they don't produce cortisol. And we all know cortisol. We relate it to the stress hormone. But without cortisol, the person can't survive. And that's where my journey really into holistic health started, because he would be in the ICU every 2-3 days, seizures, and he would, potentially, they can die out of multiple situations. Omkar, that's sitting right there today, healthy and happy. But that taught me that the adrenal gland is so vital. And when I asked the doctor, does food play a role? Because he was going into the ICU literally every month. And who can afford to have a child in ICU for several weeks? It's an expensive affair as well. So the doctor turned to me and said, food has nothing to do with this. And intuitively, you know that that's not sitting right. So I went back, studied nutrition, functional medicine, Ayurveda. And yesterday, Shonali was here. If any of you attended Shonali's talk, she was talking about the macrobiotic diet. So functional medicine and Ayurveda are very deep sciences which believe the whole body is interconnected. And one of the common denominators in both, so functional medicine, they would say that for anybody to be healthy, for any drug to work, for anything to work, the person has to have stable blood sugar, smooth elimination, and good sleep. Ayurveda said for everybody to be healthy, you need good diet, you need brahmacharya, and you need nidra or sleep. So the common factor was sleep. But it's not as simple as telling everybody, go to sleep. Right? And I found that in the sleep space, sleep physicians, people immersed in research over sleep, they're talking with blinders, because everybody is saying CBTI is the gold standard for sleep, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, where they say ignore it if you have a deficiency, ignore it if there's something happening inside your body. You just reprogram your brain to help you sleep. And it's not as simple as when the body is in chaos that you just tell somebody, go to sleep. Sleep is important. So I just felt that there was a huge missing link in the world, and we had to find a framework where people could identify what are their vulnerabilities, because you and I could have different permutation and combination of things that are contributing to our poor sleep. Everybody is definitely not the same. And I didn't want the ownership of that to go to a doctor. I wanted to find a way to bring that empowerment, the knowledge, into the hands of the patient and empower the patient so the patient knows how they can restore even keel. So yes, way back at that point in time, I did go through all the motions of asking God, the universe. I was angry. Why was my child diagnosed with this condition? Any day he can die of something. I did get sad. I went through this range of emotions, but for sure, I think every challenge in life is a seed for transformation for us, for our family, for the world. And I would utterly attribute the birth of the book, How to Sleep Better, to having a child with an adrenal condition.
Wonderful. So sometimes it's that there are challenges, and there are ways in which you overcome these challenges, either constructively or going into depression. And why people go into phases of depression or experience these emotions differently, only a psychologist, psychotherapist, somebody who has studied the mind can say. And who else can we have better than this to explain, apart from Suchita Sanjay, who's had her stint with hypnotherapy, and she's helped a lot of people understand their own mind space and get better. And this she has done across the globe. So Suchita, can we hear from you about how this journey has been, and does the state of mind differ from men to women and to other genders?
A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm really very delighted to be here, and it's a very touching moment for me because I have been on this platform for a long time, right from the trust started in 2018. But I never ever thought that I would get into the writing space at that time. So my journey, I have to tell you, started off somewhere in 2011 when I was partially bedridden for a period of 6 months. And the first 3 months, I was questioning myself, why me? And the next 3 months was a journey into studying different things, knowing different things about the mind and body. That is when I was reading a lot of Brian Weiss. I was reading a lot of Heal Your Body by Louise L. Hay. And I was also watching a lot of videos on spirituality and things like that. So the day of the operation came, and that was when the doctor said that even if we do operate on you, we don't guarantee whether you will be the same. So I somehow deeply felt inside, after the knowledge that I had gained by all the reading that I had on the bed, that I will bounce back. So that was the feeling that I had. And I decided I will bounce back, and I have. There was a lot of restriction on me. So post the operation, they said I shouldn't be bending down, I shouldn't be lifting anything beyond 5 kgs, I shouldn't be doing yoga. But I do all of it today. 2011 was that difficult phase, and fast track to 2018. I was happy, I was okay. And I never even thought I would consider doing hypnotherapy or helping people as my forte. So in 2018, I met a friend after 33 years, and that was when she said, you know, I wanted to meet you once. I thought of you last month, and I see you this month. So I was just asking her why. And she said, way back when she joined us, when she was 10 years old, she did not know how to converse in English, and she was feeling very low. And it seems I told her that I'll help you. I don't remember any of this even to this day, but she remembers that. And that was the first slap on the face moment for me. That was when I was thinking, what am I doing with my life? Well, I was in my late 40s. I had no clue about psychology. I was not from the psychology background. I came from a commerce background. And I was just wondering, how do I take myself forward? I was trying to search what is it that I can do, but I wasn't getting at anything at all. So 3 months hence, I see another person, and I had this wave of thought which just came to me, which said, I hope this person is not struggling with cancer, because I see a lot of suppression in the face. Well, that was the feeling that came, and I really felt bad that that feeling came. I was not understanding where this feeling came from also. 3 days hence, I get to know that this person is actually struggling with cancer. So that is when it was again another slap on the face moment for me. And I was just crying myself to sleep that day, and I was just asking my masters, you know that I have the empathy quotient. You know that I can help somebody, because being empathetic has been there with me right from my childhood. So, but I had never thought that I could get into this stream and help people. So that was when I was crying myself, and I just asked my masters to show me a way. And I was just scrolling the internet to find out what I could do. And that was when, instead of just scrolling, and normally I would never click on my teacher's face, that is Marisa Peer, who is the pioneer of rapid transformational therapy. Instead of just scrolling, it was a click by chance. And it opened up, and I realized that was what I wanted to do. So I did that, and I qualified. And I'm really very happy that I did it, because to this day, I have been able to help more than 350 people from across the globe. And it has been a very soul-satisfying journey, I must say. So this is something that most of us tend to just suppress certain feelings, or try to brush everything under the carpet, or say, okay, I want to be strong, I'm strong, but they don't try to heal themselves. And also, mostly we don't try to prioritize ourselves. So it's not just with the men or the women. Everybody struggles with prioritizing their mental health and well-being. So I was not even the kind of person who would come out and say, prioritize yourself. I was social media shy. I would never like to go on the net or be there telling people about benefits. But then one of my coaches asked, is your purpose greater than your limitations? So that is when it struck me that I have to go beyond my limitations. So each of us have the power within. So that is what was the session in the morning with Dr. Bala. So tap that power into yourself, try to get over what is it that you're going through, and lead the best life that you can.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. So when when Shubha told me that we have this panel and there are these phenomenal ladies, first thing I thought was each one of them has a very specific space in which they have worked or they have had knowledge in. So what is the common thread that that we can join them with? And I realized no, there is no common thread, but there is a common journey, and that common journey is that of time. All of us have had this journey through time, and all of us are left with timestamps for memories in our own spaces. So I would like to go to Yasmin again and Vanitha, followed by Vanitha, to ask what is it that women do not put themselves on a priority list, on a high priority list? Because even on a flight, you hear the announcement that please fasten your oxygen mask first before doing it to the family, right? I mean, even automobile industry tells you that wear your seatbelt first and then do it to the others. So why do we see that we're trying not to make it very sorry sort of a thing? We are not sharing any sob stories. We're just asking these organic questions that should have been asked many years ago. That why do women not put themselves on priority?
I think basically it's the conditioning that we go through right from the beginning, that put the other first before you. So as we grow, we follow the same thing. And then when we grow older, also it's the same.
So you're saying the guilt just grows? The guilt of a mother is real?
It's more than guilt. It's the underlying lesson that you have learned growing up. So, it becomes the other person is the priority. And people feel like they're stealing somebody else's time.
Yes.
And they feel it's a crime to prioritize yourself.
Right.
And even when you do this, society says that, look at her. She's first putting herself. It's always her, not her children, not her family.
Right. So does that work like that, Vanitha? I mean, when women come to you for guidance,
Yes.
have you had to do this counseling first? That no, you can exercise, you don't have to worry.
Yes, exactly. You know what? Times have changed. Back then, the women were very sacrificing and, not at all selfish. It was always family first, children first, house first, then only them. But things have changed now drastically, and the generation after mine is a lot better. One after that is even more better. Now I think they've become selfish. Okay? Mm-hmm. So in between, one is still doing good, and they come back. Of course, a lot of ladies who come to my class, they bend backwards to attend classes. I'm an aerobics instructor, so I take aerobic classes online and offline, both. So I see people accommodating their workout, and everything revolves around their workout. Okay, then people ask them, why is that workout so important? They say, yeah, because I educate them also. I said, this is important for you. You can go back and take care of your family without screaming at them because you're so strong and fit and energetic. Okay, that's one of the points besides the point. And also, I must tell you a couple of incidents, where it touched my heart. There was a whole lot of, this was a family outing, and people were waiting in the bus just outside the studio. And my student finished her workout, changed and went into the bus, and then they went to this one, okay? And there are young girls who come to the class, they tell their parents, I want a boy from this area, in Bangalore, in this area. Why? Because I don't want to miss Vanitha Ashok's classes. Okay, and if they're changing places, they say, okay, we will look for a house in this area because they know the importance of a good workout. So, as a trainer, for me, it is very important to educate them about the importance of exercise, and that's when they stick to exercising. So that is, it's been a satisfying journey for me. The whole thing happened for a reason. When I got into this industry, there's a story behind it which I'm skipping because it's a long story. And I'm an accidental fitness professional. I didn't become an instructor by choice. It was an accident, and it was for a reason, and that's why I'm sitting in front of you right now. Thank you.
That's a good accident. Any accident that takes you towards your purpose is a good accident.
Just adding a bit, yes, there is a changing time which we are experiencing now, but there is still a lot of society which is untouched.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So, Miho, I want to come to you at this, that is there a cultural difference in the way genders are perceived? Like the man-woman status, is it the same in Japanese culture and Indian culture? Or do you see Japanese women getting different levels of priority against the Japanese men? How is it? Because we both are ancient cultures.
Honestly, this question is very difficult. Japan, still the women's position is low, I think. And the reason why I left Japan, reason why I quit the company and became freelance, because 1985 the government announced that Equal Employment Act. It means the women, men, both the company should pay same salary. But in fact, I started work 1988. The company is giving lower salary for women, and male are getting more, and it was not fair. And I was working much more than my colleagues, and sometimes 1.5 times or 2 times, but he was getting good salary. And I really couldn't negotiate. And around that time, the woman was said that you have to get married around 25 years old. Right now, no one is saying. Otherwise, you will be a Christmas cake. It means, when you buy Christmas cake, maybe 21st, 22nd, 23rd, but no one buy Christmas cake after 26th. Yeah. Right? It means, when I touched 29, I thought I can't get married. That's why I thought I should get my career. Then I went to New York to study English. At that time, I was not thinking anything about marriage. And the job situation and family status, women's role is much, much tougher, okay? We don't have maid. Most of us women had to do cleaning. We don't have maid, cleaning, cooking, take care of kids. Actually, I don't have kids, so I don't know how much they are suffering pain. And both, husband and wife go to the office, but some emergency things happened. Kids have fever or so. Almost 99.9% wives have to, stop the company and go to the nursery or something. And it's really painful, and they are so hard worker. I really respect Japanese housewives and working ladies. Yeah.
It sounded almost like Indian scenario as well, that, it's no different. It's the same thing. And we are not, no, please, men, don't worry about it. We are not blaming the men for this. We're just saying it's the mindset. You're all co-travelers with us, and we all empathize with the men as well, right? So, and when it comes to going on a journey of self-discovery, whether it's relating to having a child that had a condition that took you on that path, or choosing and drifting towards yoga, that itself. I mean, do you see, Deepa, since you're living the yogic way of life, do you see more women embracing that as a choice? Or do you see men coming with that choice and then their spouses, partners, or somebody follows? How was it?
No, I think it's probably the other way around, because if you look at yoga specifically, I think overall perhaps the women do start earlier and then get the husbands to follow. And this is a trend that we've seen over the last 2 decades, where it's harder to get the men, because somewhere I think there's also a mindset that yoga is boring, yoga is slow, and we get that a lot. And way back, 25 years back, when I first started teaching, I remember my college mates would look at me as if I was wasting my life on this useless profession. And of course, fast forward today, everybody's a yoga teacher, and teaching yoga is really sexy today. But so back then it was considered something very boring to do. And probably even today I do see that it takes a while after women have been doing yoga, and then they're trying to coax the men in their life to join them on that journey. At least this is what we have seen together. And maybe it's different culture to culture, maybe it's different in the West. But for sure, if you ask me, yoga, women first and men follow.
That's lovely to hear, to know that women prioritize their health, at least these days, to know that they choose the path of good health. Is it due to sort of a self-preservation mode that, I want to find solutions to my own problems in the most organic way possible?
No, I don't think it starts like that at all. It simply, I think, begins as something to get away from home, get away from the responsibilities, and then you're looking into the yoga class as a form of community. And today you're reading about these things in books like the Blue Zones, where the importance of community to health is being validated and emphasized. But I think it's more, it begins with women wanting to just get away from the mundane routine. And I've stayed with one statement the same for the last 2 decades, which is to tell the women who come for yoga that if you have an argument with your spouse, before you respond, put your yoga mat and do an hour of yoga. Your response will be different.
Yeah, and then you can and then you can use the mat to respond with. I'm sorry. No, I'm not making light of it, but I'm just saying. There is a way in which men approach mental health, just the way as we talk about women suffering from not having to prioritize themselves. There's a way in which this culture makes men also suffer, that you have to be hyper masculine, you almost have to show toxic masculinity. If you're not muscular, you don't show biceps, you don't have 6 packs, family packs and all that, you're not man enough. And every time your car goes and bumps into another car, you have to just get out and you have to brandish yourself and you have to be like, hey, all that. But there is a mental condition that bothers men as much as it bothers women, if not more. So with your journey of hypnotherapy, have you seen more men reach out to you for help or women?
And I have to say, presently it's equal.
Wonderful.
Which is a very good sign.
Yeah.
Because men are supposed to be, that is the social conditioning that the culturescape gives, that they're expected to be strong. So even if somebody is crying, if a boy is crying, normally you tend to see people saying, don't cry like a girl. So the suppression in men starts off much earlier in their age. And they're not supposed to be vulnerable. In fact, vulnerability is a strength. It's not weakness. That is something that I would like to share on this platform. Because most often, men make a lot of sacrifices. They're not the ones who are expressive to say that they're sacrificing a lot. They do everything for their family. And they prioritize themselves last because they have a home loan to take care of, they have a car loan to take care of, they have another thing to take care of, and it goes on XYZ. So they do not prioritize themselves. So I just want to share a short story here. There is this person who, I wrote this a couple of days ago on my post. So there is this person who goes to the therapist and he says, look, I'm really stressed, anxious, and I see signs of depression setting in. So the therapist asks him, so since how long have you been struggling with this? He says about 5 years. And then the therapist goes on to ask, so you have had a fractured mind for the last 5 years, is it? And he says, yes. And the therapist asks him, what has it costed you personally? So he says, I have no proper balance in myself. I have no proper relationships. And everything is struggling at the home front. I'm not at peace with myself. So he asks him, what are you struggling with professionally? And he says, I have stagnated in my career. There is no job promotions for the last 5 years. So he says, he asks him, the therapist asks him, what is it? How do you quantify it? So he says, I must have lost about $150,000 a year. So he says, so 5 years, $750,000 and odd. And the person says, maybe more because I would have had a promotion in between. So the next question the therapist asks is, have you had any physical injuries or anything in the last 5 years? So he says, yeah, I had a fracture. So he says, were you hospitalized? What happened? So he says, yes, I was hospitalized, and I was told that I have to have this nuts and bolts. So you've had a fractured body in the last 5 years once, but you've had a fractured mind for the last 5 years. So the therapist asks him, is your mind and body the same? Is it a part of you? And this person says, yes, it is very much a part of me. So the therapist asks him, why did you ignore the fracture that happened 5 years ago? So this is what men normally do. This is something that...
Deepa would like to add something.
Yeah, I think since we're talking about mental health, I must add something pivotally important today. There's so many people with anxiety or depression, and one of the first round of treatment when somebody goes for help is therapy, of course, but to also put them on anti-anxiety medication. Now, there was a friend of mine who was working a lot for mental health, and I asked her that, how are you diagnosed with anxiety, and are you first checked for example, B12 deficiency, iron deficiency? She said, those things don't matter. So the first the diagnosis is made, you're given the medication, and then you can go check these random things to support you. Now, this has to be turned upside down and put on its head, because a chaotic physiology is clearly going to result in anxiety. For example, it's evident that poor gut health, today we are talking about the gut-brain axis, but there's poor gut health will result in deficiency, B12, iron, folate, and these are all nutrients critically important for our mental health. So we can't be, I will always challenge people when they say I've been diagnosed with anxiety, that what does that diagnosis mean? That is there a test that is done before you're diagnosed and labeled? Because what happens as a result of that is that people are perpetually attaching these labels to themselves, and they are feeling that I have anxiety, and then you keep feeding this information to your subconscious mind day in and day out.
So
you're going to
manifestation
end up
happens.
and resulting feeling that you are anxiety, when that's not. You're capturing the body in that state of imbalance, and your understanding Deepa at that moment in time was thoroughly imbalanced, and that is not that person. Right. So how do you bring the person to balance? I don't think any mental health diagnosis should be made without assessing the individual for physiological chaos.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Vitamin D deficiency is on the rise now, so is depression and weight gain. Okay, inability to lose weight is because of vitamin D deficiency. And WHO has declared that 50% of Indians are unfit. So I'm going to be going live in a couple of hours, while I'm going back to Bangalore to talk about the same on a panel. It's a electronic media. So imagine WHO has declared half of us unfit. It's thanks to our vitamin D deficiency. Suddenly the whole world is deficient, especially Indians are deficient of vitamin D. So the root cause could be the RO water. It's not yet concluded, but do get your vitamin D and you can solve most of your superficial problems, okay, before going to the expert.
I think
Thank
even
you so much.
B12 and vitamin D.
That
both.
also,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, so while we talk about the vitamins, I also want to talk about the culture of community here. And I want to go to Miho at this and talk about the tea tea culture and and what does it do to the well-being of a person or a community for that matter, and does it even address cultural issues? Is there a communion coming together? Is there an exchange of thoughts? Is it therapeutic or is it just a cultural thing?
And not to forget the matcha.
Oh yeah, matcha. Yes, I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, actually, it's an extremely difficult question. Basically, tea ceremony, it's hundreds of years ago, traditional culture. But unfortunately, I will talk about the current Japanese situation. After World War II, 1945, Japan lost war by the U.S. At that time, the sense of value, lifestyle, everything has changed because Japan, got burnt out, right? And the traditional culture, religion also denied. Then, immediately after, economic growth happened, 1960, 1970. When I was a child, first, McDonald's came, KFC came, and everyone started to eat instant food. As a result, right? Everyone has some issues, allergies, food allergies, everybody's getting fat, acne. But we didn't know what was wrong. Just the kids are having a lot of issues, losing energy. But right now, it's still continuing. Unfortunately, nobody is following tea ceremonies concept. This is a fact. But now, just can I talk about my personal experience? When I was working 20s, at that time, Japanese economy was reached the peak. A lot of global, restaurants and wealthy, wealth are surrounded by me, and looks like so nice, Western fashions, but the lifestyle was so tough. Everyone is working hard, not sleeping well. Then continued 20, 30 years, and now maybe same as India. People started to see the past. We should go back to the, little bit more primitive all the way. Tea ceremony also, and we have a word, onko chishin. On means like we should see the past and wisdoms, and we should get the new ideas. Then for myself, when I was young, I was eating a lot of Western food, meat, and bread or so. But after a certain age, my body really doesn't accept. These few years, my breakfast, I often eat, rice and miso soup. This is a basic fermented food, and rice is basic for me. And Japanese, instinct, and Western intestines are different lengths. Japanese are longer. It means you need to have some food which is easily being digested. But we don't know such a things. Japan has a 4 seasons, and we have our own, agriculture, nature. We should respect, own traditional culture and food style. So now I realize through my body, I can't eat curry every day when I am tired. Just I need Japanese food and soy sauce, miso soup. That's the best. I think that, the books and ideas, vitamin, everything is important, but the basic things is that came from the ancient time. So I want to respect.
Right, Mr. Arvind, I think that seemed like a declaration. So from tomorrow, there's going to be a different breakfast on the table. So yeah, So please be prepared. That's nice. Yasmin, I'm coming to you. There is a journey that women undertake in their 40s. What happens in the 60s is that, like you elaborated right at the beginning, even if there is a problem, even if there is an issue, even if there is a need to find a solution, there is never a motivation, one. Second thing is there's no acknowledgement. I think all the youngsters in this room will agree that their mothers and fathers are the most difficult people they deal with. Is that right? I have my own daughter here also, so she'll say yes. So I think I think there are different phases of denial that a person goes through. You met a lot of people. I won't use the word prime, but I will say they're years of productive health and productive mind, and they seem to have taken on the journey from that point onwards, at that post 60 sort of a time. What experience was that? Because all the narratives that you have written, most of them seemed very, very cheerful. Was that a reflection of your own mind, or did they actually seem like that?
No. I had to actually handpick these women because most of the women, when I put the idea of writing a book, and I wanted to know how they are taking their life ahead, because it shouldn't stop, right? Whether it is 16 or 60, it's just the age. You're just growing every day. Why do we say that at 16 you're growing up, and when at 60 you're old? It shouldn't be you're old, you're still growing up, right? So when I was talking to women, I saw that many of them hold a lot of regret because there's so much of social conditioning and so much of things, like at least the women that came from our times, we underwent arranged marriage. We did everything to please the in-laws, the parents, the family, the husband, and so on and so forth. We just, tried and every time we were asked, learn to sacrifice. That was one thing. Which I see that today's generation is, I would call them self-centered or thing, but I think they have a fair idea of life. Yes. Most of them, yes. I would say, yes. But we walked on one straight line that was drawn for us. We never wanted to deviate. But today I see that is changing with many. But how do you embrace a change? Because I have come all the way walking on a straight line. Now when I see the shift happening, I should also be ready to change. When I change, will I embrace that change? And if I want the change, I have to be the change.
So do you think today's parenting is a bit stressed out job? Or are we stressing too much about good parenting, bad parenting?
Parenting never came with a manual.
Right. I love it, yeah.
Yeah. So we all did what we knew the best.
With intent.
Yeah, intent was good.
Yeah.
Intent was to protect. But I think some of us are overprotecting.
Yeah.
That is also not good.
So, yeah, I read somewhere, sorry to interrupt, but I read somewhere, prepare your child for the road and not the road for your child. I think a lot of parents are doing it wrong by trying to prepare the road for the child, that, don't go out to play, don't be with this person, don't read this, don't do that. And the child is spending time on Insta.
Yes. No, especially today's children, when you look, they have the phones or the tabs and computers and everything. It's very early given to them. At least I think until my children were kids, they didn't have that. They had to find things.
Can we hear your children's names?
Oh, this is like, asking Sati Savitri to take her husband's name.
No,
she feels shy.
no. Okay.
Okay, so My children are Danish and Kubra.
Danish Sait is
Danish
the
Sait
one
and
that's on
Kubra
Insta.
Sait.
Guys,
Yeah.
our comedian, our MLC Nagaraj and French biryani. Yeah, the star of that. So. Kubra is also a very...
Girls, I mean, guys in the audience, I would like to, say it's the other way around. She is their mother.
The mother. So she is talking of parenting. Guys, I think we need to take notes here. Yeah, that's nice. So, yeah, yes.
Yeah. So what happens is most of the time we, many of us, especially women, we make it all about revolving our time, energy towards the family, towards the upbringing of the child. And we don't have, once they go out, once we become empty nesters, that is when we fall into the lull as, where am I headed? What did I do with my life? So it is very important to also transition with the time as well as make sure that we occupy ourselves with better, try to explore what is it that we truly want to do with our lives. So to add, for the part where how do we cope when we are getting older. So this is what I had to add.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suchita. I think we have come to almost to the close of a very interesting freewheeling session. If there are any questions that you guys would like to ask Yasmin and Miho and Deepa and Suchita and Vanitha only. So please, you're free to ask. If you don't have questions, we'll continue with one more question to close.
Why not Preethi Nagarajan?
I only answer. I have the sole propriety of asking questions. Nobody asks me questions.
Thank you for a very, very interesting session. I just want to say, how do you draw the line between what is a very transparent world today, where everything and every bit of information is out there, and confidentiality, which is very much an important part also of professions? And how can we disassociate from what is helpful suggestions and gossip?
Do you want to direct this question to someone? I mean, anyone that has to take? Anybody wants to take this question?
Yeah, to answer this, drawing healthy lines and boundaries is all within us. It's very easy. When you know it is not good for you, just close your eyes for a few seconds and ask yourself, is your body feeling good inside? If the feeling's good, then it's right for you. So that is one part. And also to draw healthy lines and boundaries is what you asked. Yeah. So drawing lines and boundaries, again, is that power is within us. We have to be able to do it. So I hope I have answered your question.
I think I have only one word answer. Eat some dessert.
Preethi,
You'll forget. You'll forget what's making you feel bad. Eat a dessert. Go for an ice cream. Sorry, it's a very idiotic thing to say, but I'm saying.
No, but
Make
I
yourself
do
feel
want to add, as somebody who my husband will say is a recovering people pleaser, and I have terrible challenges with boundary setting. So I think it's easier said than done. While Suchita says that, think about it, when we've had a lifetime of trauma patterns where perhaps you've been in a terrible marriage or somewhere what the world today is describing as a dysfunctional HPA axis, which basically means that our brain only knows how to perform in a state of pressure and emergency. So even today, if we are away from the source of stress, it only knows how to spike cortisol and react aggressively. So I think it's easier said than done, and it's something that also goes a lot back to the body constitution, which nowadays I'm talking a lot about, that how Vata, Prakriti, and I don't want to go into the doshas too much, but basically there are certain body constitutions who gravitate towards people pleasing, the inability to set boundaries. And these themselves can actually be physiological imbalances that are fueling us to react in a certain way, because the gut axis is also very much linked to our neurotransmitters and how we are firing those neurotransmitters. So I think one of the things that I find very effective, which I tell a lot of clients, is to have clear boundaries of time. For example, that for me it's 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. all devices are switched off. And I know a lot of people have asked me, I put my phone on silent. It doesn't work the same way. When you turn it off somewhere, the subconscious mind is fooled into thinking that you're safe, you're protected, there's no impulse from the outside world. So I think having some time in your mind, whatever is realistic for you, and then staying with those time, with not shaking that, not allowing anybody to budge that, that does slowly start to help you with the overall aspect of boundary setting in a bigger context.
That's wonderful. I think that answered 4 questions that would have arisen from here onwards. I think that's a very detailed, elaborate, to the point answer. And I would like to ask Miho about, we've ended the session, but I just want to ask Miho that she said she took to Ayurveda for a very good reason, and that she's found things that agree with her body and even her family. So that's something we were talking about. We had discussions prior to this panel. So
my experience, when I was young, I was playing basketball, and I have hurt my back very seriously. My 20s, I was suffering backache, but when you are young, you can deal with, painkiller or something. My 30s was getting severe. Sometimes, winter or so, I couldn't walk well, and it was so tough. Then when I was 40, I shifted to Bangalore, and I was wondering how will it be, my future. Then my friend recommended Ayurveda clinic, and I got massage. Then half a year later, I'm okay. I mean,
you had your
the
spine
backache
back.
is gone.
Yeah.
Then since then, almost, I invited my mother from Japan. She asked, do surgery, knee surgery. But in fact, she went to the clinic 1 month or so. Right now, she is 85 years old. But she doesn't need anything. I mean, the sticks or something. She's walking by herself. 15 years ago, she got a treatment. And I really, appreciated Ayurvedic lifestyle. So my husband and myself, every year, end of year, 1 week, 10 days, I stay the Ayurveda, resort. And I'm getting the treatment and detox and eating only vegetarian, sattvic food. So I'm keeping the good health with
Wonderful.
Ayurvedic method.
Wonderful. Any more questions? Do we have any more questions? We've come to the close of this. Yes.
First of all, thank you for that really nice session. And I have a question. Actually, I'm from Japan, and I didn't have any spiritual experience in my life. But almost 3 weeks ago, I happened to visit Bangalore, and I talked to someone about myself, and he said that always you have to seek inside in yourself. And I was like, when I heard the word, I couldn't stop crying. I think I had a trauma and suffering in my past, and I thought that I could treat them. I could overcome with that, but actually I wasn't. So I want to know, how can I treat my trauma, treat my bad past suffering, and how I can handle if another trauma or suffering gonna come in the future.
Wonderful. I think this question is for me. No, this is for you. Obviously, the most qualified person on the panel to answer this.
To answer this question, what matters is what we have wired ourselves with in the subconscious mind, because it is the subconscious mind that runs our conscious patterns, conscious behaviors. So it's very important to understand the root cause as what has as to what has affected you deep inside. So I can speak from the perspective of what I normally practice, and that is hypnotherapy. So in this, what happens is the subconscious is accessed to understand the root cause of what has happened. And in the same hypnotic state, rewiring of the subconscious mind is done. So this can be one of the approaches to overcome trauma, which is very effective. Because at times, on the surface, many of my clients have always told me, this is it, this is all that is there. But then, when we go access the subconscious mind, there are several other layers which are hidden, which they're not aware of. So that has to be processed, healed, and new set of beliefs have to be instilled.
But that can be done, and we wish you all the very best with your seeking of a solution. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being the wonderful audience, allowing us to bring out our best, and listening to all of us. And thank you so much. We'll see you next year again. Thank you. And we thank the Mysore Literature Festival, everybody at the Mysore Literature Festival, impeccable planning, execution of Shubharas and team, and scores of women have put in days and nights of work into this. And I say it so proudly, it's happening in Mysore by all women. Thank you so much. Yes.